Hello everyone, and welcome to Earth Archives. Japan's food culture underwent a dramatic change during the Meiji period. This era marked Japan's transition from a feudal society to a modern nation. With the ascension of Emperor Meiji and the opening of Japan to the world, Western food culture entered this ancient island nation, blending and clashing with Japan's traditional culture to form a unique modern Japanese cuisine. In 1872, Emperor Meiji tasted beef for the first time at a court banquet. This event became a significant turning point in Japan's culinary history, symbolizing Japan's gradual move away from a thousand-year-old ban on eating meat and entering a new era of dining. At the time, Japan had already begun actively adopting Western technology and culture, which included Western culinary concepts and nutritional knowledge. The Japanese at that time had very limited knowledge of beef. Most people did not know how to cook beef or understand its nutritional value. To change this, a number of new-style restaurants were established, specializing in beef dishes and starting to teach the public how to enjoy beef. Restaurant innovation: the birth of Gyūten and Sukiyaki. These restaurants were called Gyūten, beef shops, a name simple yet ruggedly charming. Upon closer inspection, the store designs were quite stylish, modern, and often had large signs at the entrance, almost shouting to passers-by, "Come try fresh beef." At that time, beef was still a novelty for many, and for those used to fish and vegetables, the sight of thick, red meat on the table was both curious and exciting. These beef shops didn't just sell food, they also taught people how to appreciate this new ingredient, guiding them step by step into the world of beef. The air was even filled with a sense of innovation. Among the most popular dishes in these beef shops was sukiyaki. The name itself has a historical flavor. It is said that sukiyaki originally referred to grilling or quickly pan-frying meat. However, during the Meiji period, the Japanese revolutionized it into a hot pot dish. Imagine a black iron pot steaming with the aroma of thinly sliced beef, as thin as paper, combined with tofu, green onions, and a rich miso soy sauce broth bubbling away. The fragrance was rich, yet not overwhelming, and the tender beef, mixed with the salty sweet broth, was an absolute delight for the taste buds. This dish was not only delicious, but also perfectly suited to the Japanese approach to food. Simple yet refined, ordinary yet full of thought. No wonder it became an instant hit. The name sukiyaki itself is also quite interesting, blending a touch of Japanese cultural ingenuity with a bit of misunderstanding. Originally, yaki meant grilling or roasting, which made people think of barbecue. However, the dish evolved into a hot pot, yet the name stuck, sounding both fresh and appealing. The owners of the beef shops were happy to use this clever naming strategy, which was both creative and made the dish feel approachable. Over time, sukiyaki went from being a restaurant specialty to a household favorite, becoming a regular feature on Japanese dining tables. Beef, once a rare delicacy, transformed into an everyday delight, and people began to love the satisfying melt-in-your-mouth experience. How fascinating this change was! One dish not only filled stomachs, but also quietly transformed people's eating habits. Expansion: from militarism to the everyday dining table. When it comes to the changes in Japanese cuisine, we have to go back to the time of the First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War. During that period, Japan plunged into the tide of militarism. The military was busy fighting battles every day, and soldiers couldn't survive on just rice and miso soup. They needed something with more strength. So, beef, being a high-protein food, was put under the spotlight. Imagine the canteens in military camps, steaming with large pots of beef chunks being cooked, the aroma wafting far and wide. Soldiers would grab their bowls, take a bite, and the juices would burst in their mouths, making them feel like they could withstand even more battles. Beef wasn't just food, it became the military's secret strength formula. From that moment, beef's status skyrocketed. Not only did it become popular among civilians, but it was also elevated by the military, becoming a key contributor to Japan's military power. However, behind this excitement, there were also problems. The military wanted beef, and civilians wanted it too, leading to a surge in demand and beef prices skyrocketed. The days when people could occasionally buy a piece of beef to stew at home were over. Ordinary people, standing in front of meat stalls, could only shake their heads and walk away upon seeing the prices. It was a bit like seeing Wagyu beef on a high-end restaurant menu today. Just admire it from afar and keep the thought of paying for it in your dreams. Beef became a luxury ingredient, and common people had to find alternatives. Enter pork, the hero of the common people. Compared to beef, pork was much cheaper, could still fill the stomach, and when fried or boiled, it tasted just as good. Every household began putting pork on the table. Pots of pork soup simmered, and the familiar scent wafted from the kitchens. Life continued in warmth. The rise of pork wasn't in vain. It later gave birth to the classic Japanese dish, tonkatsu, breaded and deep-fried pork cutlet. Imagine pork slices dipped in breadcrumbs, fried to a golden crisp, the sound of crunching when bitten, paired with shredded cabbage and sauce. The taste was the everyday happiness for the common people. From beef in the military canteens to pork at home, and then to fried pork cutlets at small shops, this series of changes was quite lively. Although beef became popular during the war, its skyrocketing prices gave pork a chance to shine, adding creativity to the Japanese dining table. Japanese tonkatsu, from Western influence to localization. When it comes to Japanese tonkatsu, the irresistible fried pork cutlet, its story is a classic example of how Japanese cuisine absorbed Western flavors and then localized them. The inspiration for this dish originally came from Western-style fried meat. Imagine the Japanese watching Westerners coat meat in flour, dip it in egg, then sprinkle breadcrumbs before tossing it into hot oil. They thought this way of cooking seemed novel, so they decided to give it a try. At first, they followed the Western method, even drizzling it with butter after frying. It smelled delicious, but for the Japanese, who were accustomed to lighter flavors, the richness felt a bit over the top. It was like wearing a down jacket in summer. Just a bit too much, and their stomachs couldn't handle it. So they rolled up their sleeves and began to make improvements, thinking about how to make this foreign dish more suited to their tastes. After some trial and error, Japanese tonkatsu underwent a transformation and became what it is today, crispy golden breadcrumbs on the outside, making a satisfying crunch when bitten, while the pork inside remains as tender as freshly made tofu, still juicy and bursting with flavor. The moment you bite into it, pure happiness fills you up. This transformation didn't happen by accident. It's thanks to the skilled chefs of the Meiji era, who set aside the greasy butter and focused on frying the pork just right, crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, without losing a sense of lightness. Once the improved version of tonkatsu was introduced, it seemed like it was tailor-made for the Japanese dining table and quickly became a sensation in both high-end restaurants and home kitchens. People loved it, especially when paired with a bowl of steaming white rice and a cup of miso soup. The image was as warm as a winter heater. Who could resist? The success of tonkatsu is not just about satisfying the taste buds. It also holds the secret of Japan's cultural fusion. During the Meiji period, Japan was busy looking to the West, with rapid economic development, and even the food began to change. Western-style fried meat arrived in Japan, but it was completely transformed, losing all its Western characteristics, and instead becoming an authentic Japanese flavor. This wasn't just a culinary innovation. It was a microcosm of how Japan, under the influence of foreign cultures, found balance, taking the good from others, blending it with their own ideas, and creating something uniquely their own. Today, when you walk into a Japanese restaurant and order a tonkatsu set, looking at that golden pork cutlet next to the white rice, take a moment to think about its origins. From the Western frying pan to the Japanese dining table, that piece of pork has a lot of stories to tell. What you're eating is not just meat, but the creativity that bridges cultures. Further evolution of Japanese cuisine, yakitori, and offal dishes. When it comes to Japanese cuisine, aside from beef and pork, chicken plays an equally prominent role, especially in the irresistible yakitori, grilled chicken skewers. This dish may sound like it's all about chicken, but its story is much more than that. The rise of yakitori shops is also linked to the unique affection the Japanese have for animal offal. In the past, ingredients weren't as abundant as they are now, and people didn't want to waste any part of the meat, even the less glamorous offal. So, some inventive minds came up with the idea of skewering chicken livers, chicken hearts, and even pork and beef offal, grilling them over charcoal, and glazing them with sauce. The aroma that wafted from the skewers was irresistible. Who could resist? This method wasn't just about filling the stomach. It was about elevating inexpensive ingredients into something that felt sophisticated, like a creative dish for the common folk. The charm of yakitori lies in its down-to-earth familiarity. Picture this. As evening falls, small street-side shops have their charcoal grills glowing, the air filled with the rich scent of sauce and grilled meat. Skewers of meat sizzle and turn on the grill, their skins slightly charred while retaining all their juices inside. When you take a bite, the salty sweetness of the sauce mixes with the tender meat, and the smoky flavor from the charcoal gives it a unique depth. All of a sudden, all the day's fatigue feels worth it. These skewers don't only feature chicken, pork, beef, and even offal have become regulars. The liver is so tender it melts in your mouth, the heart has a delightful chew, and every bite is a surprise. This method of using inexpensive ingredients cleverly became a street food sensation, with people gathering around the stalls, eating happily with grease on their lips, laughter filling the air, like a festival in the streets. Today, yakitori is no longer the food of the poor it once was. It has become increasingly elaborate, yet still retains its charm. In yakitori restaurants, you'll find not only chicken skewers, but also pork, beef, and lamb on the menu, with sauces and side dishes that play with new flavors. Some skewers are brushed with a rich, sweet soy sauce, others are seasoned with a bit of salt to bring out the original taste, and many come topped with scallions or chili powder, adding layers of flavor. From street-side stalls to high-end restaurants, yakitori has become deeply embedded in the lives of the Japanese people, perfect for a casual drink after work. Imagine holding a cold beer in one hand, a hot, sizzling skewer in the other, the aroma of sauce filling the air, juices dripping from the meat. This is the simple happiness of daily life, isn't it? Yakitori, from offal to the variety of meats, reflects the ingenuity of the Japanese when it comes to food. It has moved from the streets to everyone's heart, becoming an unforgettable culinary memory. From the Meiji era to the present, the inheritance and development of Japanese culinary culture. When we talk about Japanese cuisine, we really have to start with the great transformation that took place during the Meiji period. At that time, Japan was like a curious child, embracing Western flavors with open arms, yet never forgetting to stir in the tastes of its own backyard. This fusion led to the creation of the mouth-watering Japanese dishes we know today. Beef, pork, chicken, and even offal, those parts that others might consider scraps, were all transformed into stars on the table. Just imagine the sizzling Sukiyaki pot, where slices of beef swim in the savory sauce, tender enough to fall apart at the touch of chopsticks. The golden, crispy Tonkatsu, crackling with every bite, while juices dance on your tongue, and yakitori, with skewers of chicken and liver sizzling on the charcoal, glazed with sauce that makes you forget you're even eating offal. These dishes do more than just fill your stomach. They tell story. Each ingredient and preparation method a testament to the respect and creativity the Japanese bring to food. The changes behind all of this stem from the openness of the Meiji era. Westerners brought steaks and fried meats to Japan, and the Japanese didn't just copy them. They improved on them. They swapped out the rich, greasy butter for refreshing sauces, skewered offal to create new flavors over the grill. Their attitude toward ingredients was like tidying up a house. Nothing was off-limits, and as long as it was prepared well, anything could become delicious. This fusion wasn't just a technical skill. It represented a shift in mindset, embracing new things while holding on to tradition. As a result, Sukiyaki went from military mess halls to civilian homes. Tonkatsu became a household staple, and yakitori moved from street stalls to fine dining. Each dish carries a trace of history, like Japan dancing between the old and the new, moving with steady steps. Today, Japanese cuisine not only shines in Japan, but has also won hearts around the world. Walk into a Japanese restaurant, and you can smell the savory aroma of sukiyaki, hear the sizzling sound of tonkatsu frying, and enjoy the crackling of yakitori on the grill. Every bite you take is a reflection of Japan's culinary culture. These dishes are more than just food. They represent the flavors of life that the Japanese have crafted since the Meiji era, with a hint of the West, a soul rooted in local tradition, and a mindset of not wasting anything. From beef to offal, from hot pots to grilled skewers, this spread of food is like a history book, full of stories in every turn. The next time you enjoy Japanese cuisine, take a moment to savor it slowly. You might just taste the changes from the past to the present, and it's quite fascinating. In this transformation of culinary culture, Japan not only absorbed foreign culinary elements, but also turned them into dishes with a deep cultural foundation. This transformation is not just a change in eating habits, but a reflection of Japan's overall cultural and societal progress. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends to help spread the word. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.